better classes I've done in a while. I did something different. I was talking about consolidation. I was talking about some of these big winners that we had. I took some huge profits on some swing trades, some swing trades that we did. I know a lot of people will tell you in the cyber group about it, but you definitely want to hear it twice. It was a really fun event. But once again, that's how you succeed in trading. Okay, you have to be in class. You got to learn from those mistakes. Don't worry about the winners. You know, I hate talking about winners. Everyone likes to brag about winners and this and that. That doesn't make you a good trader. What makes you a good trader is being a smart trader. You hang around with smart people, and you don't want to pretend you're the smartest person, but you don't want to be the dumbest person. And you got to learn from those mistakes. That's how you become successful. So I want to pass this over to Josh. Josh's going to take over. And then don't forget, it's a 2-hour event, and it is going to be recorded. So if you are registered, and if you'll send that recording out to all of you to watch it again. So it's a special event. We got a lot more events coming up this week. Just to give you a heads up. On Thursday, we're going to have Top Gun that's going to be on, and then I will be on with Big Charts with Price Headley. And it's going to be, it's a really busy, January, which we're going to finish it out going to February. But this is the most important time to learn. It's 2024. It's been an exciting year so far. Earnings announcements are here, so please make sure you learn before you earn. So, Josh, take it over, all right?
All right, perfect. Fausto, thank you so much. And for all of us here collectively, just give me a quick chat back. Let me know that you could hear me loud and clear. I normally like to have my webcam up. I'm actually doing this right from my desktop here rather than my pesky laptop. So I wanted to make sure I was pristine, professional, good to go for all of us here collectively. And first off, might I say, great to have the fine folks from Benzinga Pro joining us here at Cyber Trading University. Again, we'll have them on just shortly after I finish up right at 12 o'clock Eastern. Hard out for myself, but great to see all of our students and members alike just joining us here this morning, might I say. It's 12 o'clock somewhere. Great to see, though, Phil, Ray, Jeff, Alex, Andrea, Ron, Richard, Pete, Grant, and Gary, who I just jumped off with a moment ago, Leonard, Ravina, and all of our students here collectively. So for any of our new trial members joining us here, well, my name is Josh Levitan. I'm Fausto's senior instructor here at Cyber Trading University. I've been under his wing for nearly 10 years now. And, really, this is the same song and dance, basically, to put it, for lack of better phrasing, that we do inside our trading room each and every day. So let me actually just get my screen sharing now, and I'll be able to go over a few trades that we took from this morning. And on top of that, of course, a large portion of this workshop is to go over questions that students already took the time to send over to myself here today. So, for students like Jith or Kathleen, Alex, Anthony, Joe, a lot of us that wrote me earlier, I'm going to have the time to answer all of your questions in just a bit. This is actually a really quick example, perhaps right now. I know Fausto just wrapped up the Phase 3 class earlier this morning, the advanced trading class that we hosted Cyber Trading. But, he mentioned he took some profits on some swing trades, right? Well, hey, this is actually a nice chart to kind of discuss, because I know he finished that class up at 10:30 Eastern time. And at that time, I just jumped onto a coaching call with one of our students. Gary, killed it on this Tesla trade earlier today. He was in from like 192 or so, a little over 192, had a great price. And with me on the call, he just took half out to take half out. Just, you can't go broke taking a profit, right? Well, it broke higher at the time, which is great, because why not ride the second half out? Not only that, this stock appears to be a bit of a gap fill, isn't it? Right? But this is where we say, all right, well, hey, perhaps we should expect resistance to become support. No? Give me a quick sec here for all of us right now. Should be able to hear me live. Just let me know if you could hear me loud and clear just in the Zoom room right now. I might be having a small little audio issue. No? Good? Okay, cool. You let me know if I have any audio issues. How about that? Just keep my eye on the chat. So with that said, well, hey, you would expect resistance to become support, right? And this was where we had resistance here, 195. And from this morning, the opening bell print at 195 and 23 cents or so. So nevertheless, stock broke out. Well, you should expect support, right? Well, it broke right under support. And at that point, Gary knew ahead of time. Of course, I was there. And all right, well, that should have held. The fact it's not going to hold as support is a red flag, at least on the very immediate term, on the short term there. So that was after Fausto got out of his swing trades. Of course, he knew ahead of time what was more likely to come. That was even coming from 10 o'clock this morning, where we ended up seeing some news come out with job reports, etc. So if it's not breaking higher, there's only one other way it's going to go. If it's not going to hold as support, there's only one other way it's going to hold. And here you could even see, well, it acted as resistance, little pop up into it, fell right back down, and it continues this drop off here. Overall, in terms of timing of the day, it's not terribly surprising because, 10:30-ish reversal time. But in the clean sense of seeing resistance become support, well, my student Gary got out with a nice profit. But on top of that, it's to say, well, if you're looking for support, you got to make sure the stock holds it very quickly, have it go under and then back over. That's that slingshot mentality that we look for here in our trading room. So it didn't even provide that. It broke under and it stayed under. You know what I mean? It broke under this first line. It kept dropping. The next two bars came and it just broke lower from that point. So there wasn't much chance to see this hold as support. As much as you would think there's a case to see it, it's not guaranteed. And that's something I just need to reiterate to any of our traders here. Well, as much as we want you to focus on the strategy that we teach you here and in our classes, mainly finding support resistance, looking for big iceberg orders out there, you can't just place a dart out there, throw a dart on the wall and hope it lands. You can't just place a buy order out there just expecting 100% it's going to hold, right? Well, by the time the stock slices through your support level, your alleged support level, and your jaws to the floor with seeing how fast it's dropping, you don't want to be on the wrong side of that ticket, obviously. So, hey, to students like Grant and Sam and Fran S. joining us here today, one of our longtime students. Great to see Fran with us here, and Alex. A lot of us joining us here. You certainly know that already and are realizing it day by day. But let's go over a trade or two that did work out from the morning session, and then I'll answer some emails coming up. So Fausto brought it up earlier. We had class today, but we have the Fed meeting, right? Today into tomorrow. We have some other data reports coming out from this morning into tomorrow too. There's a lot of hesitation with the Fed, right? There always is before they decide on the interest rates, especially for this one, I feel, with the market now back up to all-time highs. If we're wondering what's going to happen. Are they going to lower the rates once more? Are they going to pause them again? So I feel like a lot of traders are going to at least wait it out until after and see what happens at 2 p.m. Eastern come tomorrow. And that leads me to say, well, looking at the market right now, the stock market here, the SPY on the 5-minute chart here on the bottom, no surprise that we're seeing the move that it's making. Even after that nice sharp drop off at 10 a.m., it's gone nowhere since. I mean, not really much lower, certainly not back up. That's the type of market that we should just expect this type of week. The week of Fed week, the day before it, the day of it, of course, that being tomorrow. So, hey, Tesla actually a nice little short right now. My student Gary caught a good long. But otherwise, though, I'm not too jumpy to a lot of these trades that I normally would be. Stocks like AMD. Mara, hey, I was really trying to make something out of nothing here on Mara, and it actually popped up a little bit afterwards. But even this was very rugged. So that leads me to tell you, well, hey, at least going into the mornings, today, tomorrow, during these Fed days, so to say, focus on the obvious. Focus on the stocks that are up the most for a reason. Focus on the stocks that are down the most for a reason if you're looking to short. Are there stocks that are trading great volume? Are there stocks that came out with earnings last night? Of course, the answer to that is yes. GM was just a stock last night that reported. They had a big pop. That was on our watch list. That could have been a good trade depending on your levels, right? So this morning, hey, I didn't really find too much outside of maybe GM that was great from the gainers list. I was really trying to go through from top to bottom. And that led me back to the stocks from my side list, the stocks from, what we traded yesterday, really. If there was a stock that had a clean trend yesterday, a clean move, well, Mara actually was one of those, but that was looking pretty weak early in pre-market. It was down like 1 or 2%. This SoFi stock, well, it was pretty flat in pre-market, but the final 5 or 10 minutes before the opening bell, I saw it begin to push back up pretty nicely. It was pretty sudden. So I really wasn't going to focus as much on it until you saw a sharp bounce back up here prior to the opening bell. It was, I believe, up 1%, if not mistaken, from yesterday. Actually, nope, that's a lie. You could just tell from the daily chart right there. My apologies. So it actually was down percentage-wise. But with the trend that we had up prior to the opening bell, I thought, okay, well, maybe we could see continuation. Maybe we could see this at least try and pop a little bit more, maybe make a higher high, but otherwise, I'm not looking for a home run. If I could see this break above resistance at $9, well, what's my next resistance from there? Between 916 and 920, this area. Okay, if I have the chance to make 16 to 20 cents on a trade, with maybe risking just a slight amount, maybe like 5 or 4 cents on the, that's really good risk reward. But at least for a quick day trade after the market opens, that's pretty reasonable. That's not unreasonable. You know what I mean? And it can keep going up from there afterwards. But this is just my first resistance that I had prior to the opening bell. And if it breaks above these two lines and keeps really pushing up, well, you might not find resistance until 950. 950. That was my game plan on this trade going into the open here for SoFi. Stock from yesterday that we traded off of earnings. Well, at the market open right away, it ended up making a little bit of a pop at first, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I took this trade from 9. I didn't. It didn't really give me the opportunity after the open to. It didn't drop into this level under and over, right? But what it ended up doing over time was it ended up beginning to push back up to the next resistance, that being at the 916, 920 area. So the more times the stock is already nipping and gnawing at resistance, I'd be led to believe that we could see a stronger reaction, stronger move, certainly upward, but more than just 5 or 10 cents here even. These shakes down are about 5 or 10 cents worth. So I'm not really looking for a move like that. I'm looking for a larger move even. So I should know the more times this nips this resistance, the more times it can, at least, it's providing the opportunity. So once it can clear the top resistance line here for me at 920, that's where I felt more confident to jump in. So once it cleared the top, led to a pretty clean entry. Now, here's where this trade started to fall off sooner than I was looking for it to. This at least was a gap fill from yesterday. Looking at the daily chart, dropped off here back from the end of last year. And yesterday, it filled the gap for the most part. But I was looking for more. I wanted to see this try and get up to exactly 950 and test that price. Now, what I'm going to do is show you level 4. I'll show you Book Map, the program, the heat map program. But otherwise, right from NASDAQ Book Viewer, level 3, that is, I mean, you're just able to see it right from that point. But there was a pretty large sell order that showed up suddenly, not at 950 even. There was already one there, but at $9.40, 940. So let me bring Book Map up. I'll show you the heat map right here. It was really after the market opened. So 950, I had preset from the pre-market hours. That was already resistance. And then 940 showed up once the market opened. And well, unfortunately, that became the top. It ended up at least moving up to that price. I think that order ended up getting partially pulled, but it's still held as resistance. Perhaps it suckered traders in to try and get that last squeeze up, but resistance held and it shook back down pretty nastily. I took half my trade out at 934 before that price got tested, just to take half out, start the morning off with a little green, little profit. And then the second half, I did get caught just on that shakedown. I got stopped out, or I closed my trade out rather, at 928 as it pulled back a little bit more. So in from 920 entry, not bad. I mean, just I wanted a little bit more on the move, just given timing of the day. Typically that's where we should be seeing stronger trends, not as much of a reversal just yet. But hey, SoFi, more of a name brand company, although they reported good earnings yesterday. With the data that we had coming out this morning at 10 o'clock, I guess it's not a surprise, right? It went with it. The news that came out this morning at 10 o'clock, job openings and consumer confidence. Honestly, I'm more on the ball with that type of news that comes out day to day, every week with the economic calendar, which, by the way, folks, you can go right to BENZINGA and they'll be demonstrating that actually coming up in about 45 minutes. They have a beautiful earnings calendar that they have. You can follow it day to day for the entire week. Obviously, they keep it very well updated real time. But I'll tell you, I was actually a little bit behind the ball today. I was not really as much on top of the news. So once 10 o'clock hit and I saw the SPY drop, I was like, oh, wow, that threw me off. All right. So I had to get out a little bit lower here than I wanted. Money's money at the end of the day, right? If this is going to hold as support, that's one thing. It didn't. So you know what's going to happen afterwards. Pretty similar to what happened to Tesla at 195. It broke below that. Perhaps you'd expect to see support, but once it slices right below there and namely stays under there, there's not much of a point or not much of an incentive to try and hold on, right? Unless if you're short. But otherwise here, broke under, stayed under, dropped lower. Once it stays under the level, it's not a surprise to see it go lower. That's the thing. Is it possible that it could try and rebuild support? Yeah, if you're in a good market, if the SPY's pushing up at least, or if it's just straight up not dropping at the very time. But yeah, otherwise a lot of stocks ended up just going with. So it's tough to see any trade go against the grain, swim upstream. So I did show level 4 briefly. I would love to show the NASDAQ book viewer right now, if I may. Just give me a brief second. I'm trying to configure it. I'm going to show you level 3, the NASDAQ book viewer. This is something that we just recommend for any of our new students to sign up for and get to begin with. It's really just the most broad introductory level of level 3 that you can get. So even right now, actually, let's do a little live demo on SoFi while we're at it. It's not like this is the best trade. In fact, this is a short, if anything. But where could we find potential support on this trade using the NASDAQ book viewer? Well, looking at the size of the orders here, to be truthful, there's not as much that sticks out real time right now in terms of the size, the shares, that is. But look at the number of orders. That could be more of a story. So at 880 for reference, there's about 90 or 91 total orders just before that made up this size of about 24 plus thousand, right? So that's a lot larger number of orders compared to the number of orders above it, number of orders below it. So that's something that you could use for gauging potential support resistance over time. 880 is already a level that I have on my chart preset, and I plotted this line even from yesterday. But the fact that, hey, 91 total buy orders are also there, hey, 1 + 1 makes 2, right? When the stars align, that's where I can have a little bit more confidence with projecting support out there. So actually, real time, as we'll continue to go through this workshop, I have a bunch of questions to answer coming up from Michael and Jith, Jill, Anthony, Kathleen, Alex, Peter. I have David, Joseph. Actually a bunch. If I don't have the chance to get through all of them, I will private chat you inside our live trading room just afterwards. But let's check back in on this trade after we're in about 15 or so minutes. When we'll move away from this trade, we'll check back in with it in about 10 or 15 minutes. Like what's going to happen to SoFi here at this level that I took the time to plot at 880 looks like a potential support from NASDAQ book viewer. Well, on top of that, actually, just to show level 4, well, this was actually a pretty clean level from yesterday morning. It was the opening bell print from yesterday. That's something that we take a lot of time in our more intermediate and advanced classes to cover at CTU, phase 2 and phase 3. But 1.4 million shares were filled yesterday morning, right at the market open at 880. 1.4 mil. So how big is big? You tell me. I would like to respect 1.4 million shares, if anything. So that was from yesterday morning. Perhaps that could be support coming up, but you don't want to catch a falling knife. You want to see it make that under and over movement. That's pretty much it. All right, so let's move away from this trade. Actually, before I go to email really briefly, let me actually just jump to one more stock that we had called out from this morning session. It was the PXLW. Now, this one was right on our morning watch list. It was, up big in pre-market. It was showing a lot of activity. In fact, again, I know that Benzinga Pro coming on here in just a little bit. They're going to demonstrate this a lot better than I can. I've been using this for over a year now, but they're the experts with this. Here's their news feed at least. So for PXLW, there we go. PXLW. What's the news? What led to the pop this morning? Pixelworks shares trading higher after the company entered into a multi-year agreement with Walt Disney. Well, I think that we all know Walt Disney, obviously big name, and I don't know the financials behind that. Financial terms not disclosed, but it led to a pretty strong reaction right away this morning at 8:04 Eastern, and then afterwards more news came out with it. But that's where we're more focused going into the open. So, I traded SoFi shortly after the open, but this was on our watch list. It was up big. So with that, let's go through the motions on this trade here too. Actually, with this one's a little bit easier on the eyes. So normally we focus on whole number prices like $2, $3. We'll focus on 50-cent prices as well, like $2.50 here coming up. But let me ask us here, is there a level on this here chart that you're seeing? You should be seeing my trading platform, of course, and my 1-minute chart. Is there a level on this chart for all of us joining us here in Traders Talk today that you see that's respectably strong? Normally when I focus on chart levels, it's not just one tippy top or one tiny little bottom, one little nip of a price that creates a support or resistance, but it's a matter of consistency, right? So Alex, one of our students of CTU, saying 220. Zdenek, one of our members as well, saying 180, which, again, I did mention that, like, hey, one little bottom doesn't create support, but look what happened after this bottom here. Generally, it was holding pretty nicely above it, right? And it was starting to bounce from it there. So actually, pretty good answer there from Zdenek there. 180, right? That's a nice chart level. If it broke below there, then likely game over. It's going to keep dropping lower at that point, right? So I'll just kind of plot these as chart levels right now in purple. Got the 180, nice call there, but really I'm looking at 220-ish here, just kind of this area of resistance, right? You could say 217-ish to basically 220-ish. Now, if there is an iceberg order out there in pre-market acting as resistance on top, then hey, 1 + 1 = 2, right? Makes our lives a lot easier if that's the case. Let's find out. Well, there is one that's there. At 219, split down the middle almost. About 17, 18,000 shares out there at 219, correct? Orange line showing up here, red orange line. And when you look at the size of the order compared to every other size above it and every other size below it, you know that this is your resistance. So I was very inclined to focus on 219, 220 as my top here for the morning. Well, by the time the market opened it ended up pulling back. And from there, well, 2 actually became a pretty good level, right? So thankfully, there was a pretty clean entry. I mean, maybe off of 220, but first off of the $2 level here. Whole number, it pulled back right when the market opened up. So right away, when it moves back up, you should expect resistance. It broke below it as a potential support here. Support initially should become resistance. And then over time, it held it once more. But the more times that it's piercing above that price, even as it's, quote unquote, holding it. For instance, notice this high here on this candle is 202. Okay, well, it broke above the horizontal line right there by 2 pennies, but clearly it was a false pop, false breakout. Right place, wrong time. So as a trader, within the first 5 minutes, you sit on your hands. But after that point, you do want to be a little bit more reactant with taking a trade from there. So it just took the next attempt by the time in which it pressed up against 2. Pretty simple, but it led to a nice pop in which it broke over 2. And even at that point, broke over 220. And it tried to make a stronger move from there even, right? There were multiple entries on this trade that anyone could have taken. It was on our watch list. It was up big in pre-market. News came out on top. It had a re-break over big resistance at 2. So that's a core concept that we teach in our classes. If you're watching this trade underneath 2 and you're kind of waiting, well, just make sure your order is set. Wait to see it pop over 2 and then quickly press buy shortly afterwards. That's easy to say in hindsight, right? Looking at what happened. But hey, that's our strategy in a nutshell. Now, for support, you would want to see it go under and over after. Like it popped over 220 even here and moved up a little bit. Okay, well, look what happened. Came down to it, under, over, slingshot. It made the move up off that 220 level. Really quickly here. So Zdenek says something happened to the sound. I don't hear you so clearly. Uh-oh. Give me a brief moment here. That's what I was afraid of just before. So it might be a small issue with my microphone, but looks like we got the green light from everyone else. Perfect. All right. We always want to make sure our webinars are good with tech, audio, video. So I appreciate that at least. All right. So with that said, hey, you ended up seeing support become, or you ended up seeing resistance become support. Now, at that point, though, the more times in which this price gets poked at as support, then it's more likely to see it get broken through. So we're pretty much done with this trade after it fails to move up to 250. By the time it repulls back down here again, you're not expecting support to just hold over and over and over. It's easy to say it looks like it tried to a little bit longer, but the more times it does, this is the end result. This right here is the end result. The more times any level keeps getting poked and proddled at, like poked at, stabbed at, just it's going to get broken through. Really quick right here. There we go. Should be back on audio. Is that the 3-band rule? Not as much the 3-band rule. I'm not as familiar with that saying, but it's more or less just the more times that we keep seeing any level getting poked at over and over, I'd be led to believe that it's going to get broken through, make the sharper reaction off of it. So that goes for resistance here. Poke, poke, pop. I guess that was 3 attempts, mind you. But this looks like it took more than just 3 attempts. So you can't just trust the number 3. To me, I trust when a stock breaks above resistance and runs off of it, the first test of it is often the best test. Often. So you want to be very interested in that initial test. But again, that leads me to tell you, don't just place the buy order out there, just looking to catch the falling knife, right? So, over time, this ended up breaking. But hey, even before, as we just said on like SoFi, well, hey, maybe you would have expected this to be support then, right? You can't just leave the buy order out there. That's what I'm just referencing. So in our main curriculum, we have the chance to teach you this over hours on end, here in the live market, but on a, list of different examples that are moving, in the moment. All right. So really briefly, I had to scroll up here. Actually, I got to go through emails. That usually comes first come, first serve with questions that get sent in. But, really briefly, just from Carrie, she had said, look at Tesla and show the level 4 for where resistance was. So I believe we did that just before. If I didn't show the level 4 there, then let me just do that. You had just much larger support on the bid. So it wasn't as much of a clear iceberg acting as resistance. There was some small volume that showed up at 196, but to me, it was just more so the fact that it became more exhausted and couldn't hold over 195 as support. Once this broke above 195 here, it needed to at least flip that. So that's at least something I could slightly go into here for now. It's just, you're not always going to see the iceberg out there as the top. Sometimes it could show up suddenly, and then you'll see the stock drop off from that point. Like if a stock is running, well, what if suddenly there's a big 50,000 share seller that suddenly pops up on the sell side? Well, that's going to create that wall of resistance, right? Otherwise, hey, what about yesterday's levels? Maybe 195 was a clear resistance yesterday, or maybe 196 was actually, right? Because it topped off there as the tippy top for today. But that's just where I tell you, you don't need to have that iceberg sticking out there in advance in order to determine the top. Sometimes it could just be levels from the previous trading day that act as that top. Sometimes it could be an iceberg order that suddenly shows up and then the stock drops off from that point too. All right, so let me tell you, I got to go through a bunch of emails actually. So I want to get to a couple of my coaching students here first, just with them in mind. So from Fernando here, so he had one asking about support resistance levels, specifically entry triggers. Okay, so that, if you heard me just before, I took some time just before here just to go over that on SoFi and PXLW and, showed you briefly on Tesla as far as what not to do as much as we wanted this to be support. this actually provided, or this actually didn't provide any entry opportunity. It just sliced right under and stayed under. So I just wanted to make that known. As far as entry triggers, just go back on the first part of this traders talk. I definitely covered a portion of that, but let's keep going on it though. I just saw this email right now, first time. So Fernando says he's noticed that a lot of times the stock, or a lot of times the price reverses a few cents before even reaching the iceberg or historical level. How about that? I kind of just answered that there a bit. That was in the sense of, hey, you don't need to have an iceberg order there to see resistance. It could be a previous level from yesterday. So if there's enough selling pressure to break below a big support level from yesterday, well, support should become resistance, right? That's the case with or without an iceberg showing on the sell side for today. But to go further into this for Fernando, hey, let's just say that there is one. Let's just make it an easy example. Let's pretend that we have a clean iceberg order out there as resistance. Well, that's also true. We're not going to, expect perfection every time where the stock touches the iceberg, fills it, and then the stock reverses and makes the move the other way. Again, just look at SoFi. I wanted a little bit more. It actually hit 940, but that was without seeing the iceberg order there at the time. I think that order even got pulled right before it hit that top. So, hey, I wanted this to go up to even 950, didn't get it. And even if this didn't touch 940 perfectly here, if it only moved up to 934, 935, we tend to see that. Iceberg orders act as potential support resistance. And we say that potential in terms of seeing them actually hold on the chart, but that is in the sense of just generally. In terms of specifics, well, hey, that iceberg order can get completely broken through, and then you can have more sellers pop up afterwards and drive the stock down. That's a false breakout. We could see the stock not have enough momentum to go all the way exactly to that iceberg. And then from there, maybe people begin taking profits and just at that point, the stock exhausts out. Maybe, and I'm just, pulling my, I'm just kind of giving you different scenarios here, but maybe that iceberg order out there was meant to be out there by design, knowing that, hey, that's going to be more bait and we're actually going to drive this stock down a few pennies before it hits that price. Maybe that sell order out there, not to call it fake, but to call it manipulation, it could lure traders in and maybe they're just going to dump it off 5 cents before that point. Hey, whatever gets traders out with their profit at their price, right? So that leaves me to tell you, and this goes for everyone here, of course, but it's my student Fernando that emailed me. You can't expect perfection out of these levels. And that goes to say, hey, if it breaks above this level right away, well, I'd be happy in the moment, but what if it snaps right back below it? If that was such a big level, then if it gets broken through, we should be getting such a big move then, right? Well, if it pops over the level, that doesn't guarantee it's just going to keep moving up perfectly. If it breaks over the level by a penny or two and then slams right back down, that's a huge red flag for me. So it's just in the sense of not expecting perfection out of these iceberg orders. They could reverse a few cents before reaching the iceberg. They could have a false breakout and then snap right back below it. So that's where I'll say in the sense of time and how much the stock has already moved. Well, let's take one look at our good friend SoFi here. Okay, well, SoFi, it ended up coming down to it. Like we said, we had a big support level at 880, ideally for myself. And if I'm trying to go with upward momentum, I'd actually want to see it nip under 880 and then nip right back over it, because my best entries to buy a stock are directly after it breaks through a big level on the way up. But hey, this did not kiss or touch 880. It didn't make my move. It didn't break under and over 880. It just hit 881 and look at where it's at now, right? And that's not necessarily even from an iceberg order. That's just from a big level, right? I think there was some orders out there on the buy side at SoFi. We had like the 90 buy orders out there, 880, now 87. But it goes to show that held a support, but it didn't touch it perfectly. And you can't always expect that. Now, when it comes to you risking money and going into a trade, I taught this way in class last week, and I know I have a larger audience with me right now. So let me actually ask everyone here collectively, every one of us here. If you answered it last week, I appreciate it, but please answer once again if you may. Who here is retired? Full-time, retired, done with work, you're sitting and enjoying life right now. Who here is retired full-time? A lot of us, right? A lot of us. How many years were you in the workforce? How many years were you working your ass off for retirement now? Now, I know the answers to these questions because I asked them last week and I get the same answer pretty much every time. So generally, the answer is between 30 to 40 years. You got a few of us saying 45 years in the workforce, right? I mean, really from young adulthood all the way through. So that's where I say to you, well, if I'm going to look to risk thousands and thousands of my hard-earned dollars, then I better have good reason to risk it. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm a stickler to my own rule set. That means if the stock doesn't make the move I am personally looking for, then you know what? I am probably not jumping into that trade. And that's okay. I realize personally as a trader, everyone needs to, that a stock is not going to move perfectly to your expectations 100% of the time from Monday to Friday, right? But that's not the goal. The goal of all of this is to not become a future teller, right? To have the crystal ball every time. I mean, if that was even accessible, none of us, and myself and Fausto included, would not be here. The only reason we'd be here is to, at least build a community and network and like friends that actually do the same thing, right? I don't have a single friend that follows the stock market. So, and I mean that in terms of like, personal close friends. Obviously, a lot of us here I'm friends with now, but it's to say that here, well, we better make sure that we are on point with our decision making to enter a trade. So that's where I'll tell you, we can't expect perfection out of these trades. But if I am going to risk money myself, then I have to make sure the strategy I'm using is seen. It's coming to fruition. So there are trades that I will watch the stock do, and it's not in coordinates to what I'm trying to do as a trader, and it might go without me. So be it, folks. Market closes at 4 p.m. Eastern each and every day. We'll be right back at it tomorrow morning, if anything. And like we had said, there might be something even as early as coming up later on this afternoon that piques our interest. So, you can't get too caught up, too emotional about missing any one move, especially if it doesn't comply to your strategy. All right, so I just wanted to add that on top to what Fernando was asking there briefly. All right, so let's keep going through emails at least. I got a bunch more that came in. Ira, I got your email. Or was it Irving or Ira? I got to go through my emails just in full. It's funny, Ira. I think it's another student, Irving, but they have the same initials. Ah, yes. How about that? So let's go through my emails. Keep going through them. Actually, let's jump to that one there, actually. So from Irving, he's moved over his Schwab platform to Thinkorswim. I'm downloading the software today. Are there any advised settings or setup advice for day trading? How about that? So for Irving and any of our new gold students, might I say, new gold students of CTU, when you join us as a student, well, that's where you're going to have the chance to work with not just myself, but our other instructors, my colleague, Rich, in particular. He is very hands-on with Thinkorswim and getting all of our new students set up. So that's where I'll tell Irving, certainly, and all of our other traders here that are on Thinkorswim, when we go back into the trading room coming up, when we head back into Cyber Group, then I'll have Rich reach out to you at least, and he'll help you out with Thinkorswim. Ah, there we go. And how about this Ryan from Benzinga, who will be joining us in just about 19 minutes flat from right now. I look forward to that because for as much as I use Benzinga, I got to really learn from the pros like Ryan. And Ryan says, yes, allocate more RAM to your Thinkorswim platform at the screen login. So that's a nice tip in terms of general computer knowledge, right? And Ryan can go into that a lot further just once Benzinga comes on here, coming up at the top of the hour. All right, so definitely stay tuned. I'm looking forward to that. In fact. All right, so we keep it going here. Let's see from David. Here we go. From Dave, he says he took 2 trades on Monday, bought options on American Eagle and CF. I have not heard American Eagle in a little while. We trade them really just off of earnings, if there's like news out on them. Did they report overnight? They weren't on my list here, really. So I'm just interested. Let me just jump right to Benzinga Pro, the news feed once more. There is so many cool features on this Benzinga Pro platform. I swear to you, like, just you're gonna really have your minds blown away coming up here just with what's shown. But at least to go into the news feed once more, just simple enough. January 9th, that's the last headline out on this trade. So there's really no news out on this stock, at least going into this given week. That's my first thought. That's okay if the stock has a good trend. That's okay if the stock is trading a lot of volume on a morning and has a good book. This American Eagle has a good book pretty much every day, so I'm not really concerned about that as much. They look to be coming back up through the 20 SMA. That's what Dave wrote to me there. And, hey, the part that I like through that, or the part that I like about that is that Dave wrote coming back up through the 20 SMA. So it seems like David was inclined to, buy option calls perhaps once it broke through the big level on the way up. He's using an SMA for his big level, but I love how he described that coming back up through it. So that's, going with upward momentum at least. He says, this is the area I hope to learn how to use level 3 and learning how to swing trade using options. Okay, here we go. So let's go right to NASDAQ Book Viewer. I could show the TradeStation matrix here, the program on the far right of my screen. Don't get me wrong, but hey, if we're on different platforms here, that's totally okay. We're broker neutral at CTU, but it's just to say using NASDAQ Book Viewer, well, live right now. I can't go back on this from earlier, perhaps, but live right now. See, it's a little tough just for some of these trades like an American Eagle, where the order book is filled in. It has a good spread, 1 penny, but there isn't really a clear, recognizable iceberg order out there. Nothing here would really be large to me, or I'd respect as a big order. And then even here under the number of orders column, there isn't really anything that sticks out like a sore thumb, just smack in the middle here. So just real time live right now, I don't have as much information to my arsenal, to my usage here. Maybe there was an iceberg earlier in the morning that, maybe got tested, maybe that iceberg order got filled, or maybe even it got pulled. Now, really quick though, for Bill, who's with us right now, he says, wish I knew what the hell that means. Well, I know what Bill, I know Bill knows this year coming up. Bill, let me ask you and Grant and Ira and all of our students of CTU, where are we more likely to find iceberg orders in general? What round or what common prices are we typically going to find these iceberg orders at? Bill says 50-cent levels and whole numbers. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's say at a price like $20 then, right? Hey, not only is 20 a whole number, a dollar level, but that's a decade number level, isn't it? Right? 10, 20, 30. So that's even more of a psychological price point to keep an eye on. Now for today, it's easy to say it held that as support, right? Well, let's take a look just over time here, because it's been nipping and needling away this 20 level as support since the middle of December. Had a nice push above it. Resistance became support at first. Fortunately for your sake, it became support a second time. Again, pretty lucky here seeing it hold a third time. And then the more times this is getting poked at on the daily, this is going to crack. So I would really want to see this move away from 20 if you're, on it as a swing. Now, that doesn't have as much to do with the NASDAQ book viewer right now. Right now, real time live for AEO, I don't really see any iceberg orders out there. And that's fine. But just once there is one that pops up, then there would be better usage of this as a level. But at least from the daily chart, plus just kind of focusing in more on more abstract round prices, a decade level number like 20 is typically going to be very strong to watch. So not as much of a surprise it held here, but you definitely watch out on the daily here. It's already been testing it numerous times. Now, the other one that this trader said, though, was the stock CF. A little more expensive. So typically with a more expensive stock, this order book is already very thin. So my assumption is you're probably not going to see anything good here. And that's the case. Look at all these tiny orders on this stock, 50 shares. You got 3 shares, someone only doing 3 shares. That leads me to tell you this stock in particular is just not as liquid. I'd say that more in a general sense. AEO is probably going to show an iceberg order or two out there on the morning. You know, you probably had one out there throughout the day. Real time right now, there's not, but American Eagle typically are going to have better usage of level 3. Right. Now, again, though, as far as using level 3 for swing or for options, that is something that either way, regardless, you know, no matter how much time I had here in this workshop, it would take numerous classes, hours to kind of go through the real X's and O's and go through everything under a finer microscope. I can give you a quick answer here. It's like a little band-aid that could help you, but going through our main curriculum and our coaching program on top, that gives you a very good sense for knowing what works more often than not. Uh, That's why I asked Bill right away, where do we typically find big iceberg levels? Well, typically, more often than not, you find them at round whole numbers like that and 50-cent levels. All right, let's keep going through. Every now and then I get the email back from a student, not with the question, but they say, thanks for asking, Josh, not at this time. So I have to kind of, go through those briefly. Here's one from David, though, David P. And he says, Josh, do you trade through a direct access or do you trade through the direct access? Do you not have a broker account? Are your trades through access move to the broker account? So I'm a bit confused with how they phrased this. Pretty much every mainstream broker is direct access. It is a direct access brokerage, meaning that if you have real-time data for level 2 and real-time data for time and sales, congratulations, you have direct access. It is as simple as saying that. Now, I think what David might be referring to, and he'll let me know if I'm wrong here, I think that there is a platform, I think it's called DAT Trader, I think it's called DA Trader, DAT Trader. So that could be separate perhaps there. And if he's asking in regards to that, I don't use that one platform. I use TradeStation as my brokerage and my platform. They're both. That's the same thing with Thinkorswim. TD Ameritrade Thinkorswim is the brokerage platform there. You have Schwab Street Smart Edge. That's the platform through their brokerage. So I would just say if you have real-time buy and sell data on level 2 and real-time buy and sell data on time and sales, then you're good to go. Now, not every platform is going to have the data that we nickname level 3. Like, for instance, NASDAQ Book Viewer is what we nickname level 3 here, this. And this is just a separate program. This is a standalone program. But otherwise, like TradeStation has that type of data integrated onto their platform. I know Interactive Brokers has that type of data integrated on their platform. So that's like the next step up. But even without that, you just get NASDAQ Book Viewer, $15 a month with that, and you're in really good hands here. This is level 3. So if you're on, let's say, E-Trade Pro, let's say you're on Webull, let's say you're on a different platform, well, just get NASDAQ Book Viewer. That's your level 3 right there that you want. So that's kind of the best way that I could answer that question, at least as I read it right there, David. Now, another question from David here, a little bit more going into volume criteria. David says, so I see volume requirements, up to 15 minutes prior to the market opening. How much daily volume is determined to be the max? What do you look for in daily total volume? That's kind of what David's asking here. So that's where I'd say typically I would expect to see a stock trading millions of shares, certainly by the time we're at the market open or afterwards. Really 15,000 shares is the bare bones minimum. In recent classes, I've been teaching 100,000 in pre-market just to kind of, trim the fat, just block out all the noise. Typically the stocks that Fausto puts on our watch list at 9 o'clock, 9:15 are already trading hundreds of thousands of shares or millions of shares at that point. All right. So, that's one thing. But as far as maximum, well, the more volume that a stock trades throughout the day, generally speaking, it will become more tired. The lower the float the stock has, then even furthermore. And then certainly if the stock just does not trade a lot of volume day to day, then on a day where it's trading 5, 10, 20, 30 times its daily volume, then that right there is a point of exhaustion. So PXLW right now live, stock is trading nearly 60 million shares. Prior to this week, the stock was trading about 103,000 shares, 170,000 shares a day. So I would say that especially after the stock failing to break a higher high here, it wouldn't be as beneficial to hang on to the trade because more often than not, it's just exhausted. All right, then last one from here, David saying, if y'all are trading live, have all picks, passes, all the items on. I'm a bit confused with how this trader is writing the emails to me here. So just to kind of emphasize the first part there, if y'all are trading live. So of course we're trading live, myself and Fausto throughout the day are, and our students. I'd probably just say the vast majority. I can't give you a percentage. We have new students coming in each and every day. We have students that just, hey, at this point are just well into their trading live. They've been with us for months or years at this point. So that percentage likely goes up over time, but it's just to say that we always have new students joining us. So we encourage new students of CTU to start off on demo mode, to start off just for 1 week, maybe at most 2 weeks, to do it on demo mode, and that's it. And then just transfer over to live at that point. Keep in mind, new student is a lot different than new trader. I know that a lot of new students of CTU have decades worth of experience coming into this, but this is a different sport. So you might have 20, 30 years behind you in the market. You might be, in the market longer than I've been born. You know what I mean? But that's where if this is your first go around with day trading in and out, following level 3, using different tools. We don't want you to blow your account up. There's no need to be losing more money than you are if you're risking more than you need to. Meaning that, hey, right now, as a new student, we'd want you to just start off on demo, get the feel for real-time execution, or get the feel for real-time buy and sell data. And then over time, when you move over to live, then you'll start trading small, maybe 100 shares at most, and then over time 200, and then from there 500. I was working with a student just yesterday on a coaching call, and they told me like their personal rule when they're trading $1 stock or a $2 stock, they could trade 2,000 shares of it based on their own rule with kind of how much they put into each trade. They're a new student of CT, mind you. They've probably been trading for 20 years, but brand new student. I told them that's your rule. That's not my rule I'm giving you. You know what I mean? The rule I'm giving you is to at least start off small because you're going to make mistakes at first, right? And it doesn't make any sense, literally and figuratively, for those mistakes to be more expensive than they need to be. So, kind of on top of that, my catchphrase is, for any of our new students joining us, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. Unless if you have the IRS or the MOB knocking on your door with pitchforks, I'd say that we all have time to learn how to get this right. Bill says kicking a soccer ball is different than kicking a football. Not only that, but the way I compare it, it's like playing European handball versus soccer. I don't know why I reference this so frequent. I am not a European handball fan, but I thought it was at least a good analogy. Well, hey, similar rules, involves a ball, involves a goal, has a goalie protecting the net. Well, guess what? One involves using your hands, one involves using your feet. If you use your hands in one, you get a yellow card. Use your feet in the other, you get a yellow card. So that's where you got to make sure that you're playing by the right, right? And hey, for someone that has 20, 30 years overall experience with following the market, it's not as easy to drop everything and focus on a completely different strategy and commit to that. You know, there's a lot of intuition built up within you, and more intuition for good than for worse, right? But otherwise, though, you know, you got to make sure you're following all the core concepts that we teach in class. Got to make sure your stop is set immediately after getting in. And at least that way, it gives you a very good chance of being on the right side of the momentum and at least being able to take a profit. All right, now let me tell you, folks, I got a hard out here at 12 o'clock. I got my eye on the time here. Only got a few minutes left. Got Ryan from BENZINGA Pro coming on in just a moment. And, you know, with that, they're going to be going over not just their entire platform, but markets altogether, not just showing you how it works with day trading and what we do at CTU, but how to focus on macro markets and swing trades altogether. All right, so definitely stay tuned. Look forward to that coming up. They'll be on in just about 2 minutes from right now, folks. So for Grant, Patrick, Margaret, Ira, Ravina, all of us here joining us right now, just stay tuned. For any of us, though, that did not have their question attended to here in this workshop, there were so many that I had come in here, so I knew that I wouldn't be able to get through all of them. Just for Jill and Anthony and Kathleen and Alex, and I got so many more of us, Jith and Joseph. Just check your inbox. I will write back to you folks later on this afternoon or evening. So definitely just, you know, stay tuned with that. But hey, in just a couple of minutes, just we'll have BENZINGA coming on here, folks. All right, talk to everybody soon.
Cottonwood falling like snow in July. Sunset riverside, four-wheel drives in a tail light. Circle, roll down the windows, turn it on up. Pour a little crown in a Dixie cup, get the party started. Girl, you make my speakers go boom, boom. Dancing on the tailgate, no. That kind of thing makes me go boom, boom. So good, what's left of those little jeans? Trip a honey on the money, make it gotta be the best ones I've made, but we're fine. Hey, I'm a little wrong on you, and I want summertime. You ain't a 10, you're a 9.9. Tipping and spilling that homemade wine on your Tyler t-shirt. Every little kiss is driving me wild. Throwing little cherry bombs into my fire. Good God, all night. Girl, you make my speakers go boom, boom. Dancing on the tailgate in the phone. That kind of thing makes me go baby. You're looking so good, and what's left of those blue jeans? Trip a honey on the money, make it gotta be the best ones I've never gonna find. Midnight, I'm a little drunk on you, and I want summertime. Let's slip all out there, it's a little bit darker, and when it gets a little bit hotter, we'll take it all out in the water. Girl, you make my speakers go boom, boom. Dancing on the tailgate in the phone. That kind of thing makes a man go boom. You're looking so good, what's left of those little jeans? Drip on honey on the money, make it gotta be the best ones I've never gonna find.
All right, everyone, welcome back. It's Fausto from Cyber Trading. Good to see you all. Let me get a little audio check. Is everybody hear me loud and clear? I just want to see. Hey, Grant, how's it going? Good to see you. Looks like everyone's sticking around. Good to see you, Ryan, everyone, Michael, Lita, everyone. All right, excellent. All right, guys, so we have our second. Welcome for the Benzinga Pro from Cyber Trading University. We are going to talk a little bit about the Benzinga. I'm so excited about this event. We got two really great guests that are going to come on. We haven't had Benzinga on a while, but you know that we use Benzinga a lot in our cyber group trading room. One of the very important tools that we use to kind of find the news, certain things, and specifically when it comes to day trading. You know, when it comes to even swing trading or options trading, you know, it's always like a good idea to kind of know what exactly is going on with earnings and everything else that's especially going on this week. Biggest earnings week of the quarter is this week. You got the fabulous 7 of the 5 that are going to be reporting on Thursday, and we're going to use it, and it's going to help us out a lot. So let me just do a quick little intro right here. We got James and Ryan. James, really quick. James Sagantigo, basic Italian boy, just like myself. Looks like they're both Italians too. Always tell by the last. Always know from the last last letter of the vowel. But James has been a trader for Benzinga Pro for about 5 years ago, and a deep passion to the market. He understands the underlying fundamentals. Primary focus is on swing trading, which we do a lot about over here at Cyber Trading University. He does talk a little about more technical setups, strong fundamentals, and much more. Over the years, James has helped thousands of useful to identify their strategies to best suit their needs and needs. And Ryan's going to join him with him. He's also a very self-taught trader, which is obviously a lot of us do here. And then obviously we always learn. Good traders never stop learning. But he's been doing it for a while. He's been on, runs a YouTube and online chat room, does a lot of work with Benzinga. Also been a customer for theirs since 2014. After being a subscriber after 5 years, he joined Benzinga in 2019 and helped grow the capabilities of the Benzinga Pro. So they're going to go over all the features and some of the tools that we do. We'd like to enjoy and happy that he's here. And like I said, this will be recorded, so you'll be able to watch it later. And feel free to answer any questions. We'll probably go for about 50 minutes. And then at the end of the presentation, we're going to give you guys all a promo if you want to get it, which I highly recommend. And there's not too many too many platforms we do recommend at Cyber Trading University, but these are one of them that we use very often. So guys, without taking too much time away from you, the stage is all yours.
All right. Thank you, Fausto. I am Ryan. Thank you, by the way, Josh and Debbie, for putting this together. We really appreciate being here. As you mentioned there in my intro, I'm self-taught, and I started with this tool. This was kind of like the genesis of me growing up, if you will, in the market. So I really enjoy these presentations, and I can't thank you for inviting us to this presentation. I am here with my teammate, James Santangelo. I am not Italian. I'm actually Irish. So there's a funny story about my last name. They moved the O from the front to the middle and added an A for America, and lo and behold, that's where we are. But I'm really excited to go over Benzinga Pro here. James, are you around?
I am here. I'm excited to get started. Yes, I am in fact full Italian. As Fausto said, thank you very much for the warm intro. We're very happy to be here. My primary focus today is going to be keeping an eye on the chat. I want to make sure we catch all the questions and address every concern everybody has. So Ryan, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, well, first of all, I listened to the first half of that presentation there, and I ran out of the ability to type all of the good things that I was hearing. So first of all, right off the top here, it sounds like Josh and I are very much aligned on our trading style. Now, as far as Benzinga Pro goes, there are a couple of things that you have to know. I know we just talked a little bit about day trading and swing trading. The first thing that I want to stress here is that Benzinga Pro and the tools contained within Benzinga Pro can help you do all of it. Sometimes that's not readily obvious from the outset, and I totally get it. The platform does a lot. It has a lot of features, and so some things might be a little bit more difficult to find. But I'm going to use the Pixelworks example that Josh just used from a live trade. We actually live traded this morning. As Fausto mentioned, Benzinga does live trading on YouTube every morning, and this was one of the stocks that we actually traded as a group there. So I want to walk through the entire process of how you can use this software to set up and prepare for those trades. Now, James said he's going to watch the chat here for questions. So if I move too quickly through this, or if I skip over something, James, maybe do your best to try and stop me. I want to be able to make sure that I'm clear on everything. So just kind of keep an eye on, make sure that I don't go over anything.
Absolutely. And for everybody watching, Ryan is an unstoppable machine when it comes to pro. So get ready. Hope everybody's got their notepads out, and let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, so Josh did a great job outlining how to trade Pixelworks in terms of the day trade, support and resistance, all that fun stuff. I'm not going to spend time reteaching you the CTU curriculum. I'm going to let them do the great job that they do at that. But what I am going to do is help show you how you can fold pro into your daily routine. And that's actually one of the biggest benefits that Pro provides you. This entire platform is customizable. So you're looking at a screen right now that I'm calling my main workspace. All of my workspaces are listed across the top here. I've got more than can be displayed. I can very easily access them by scrolling my mouse wheel. But this is really like the first key point of Benzinga Pro. You can set this platform up to help you achieve different tasks, whether that be day trading, whether that be reading news, whether that be having a scanner, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever it is that you need to do, Benzinga Pro is going to allow you to do that, and you're going to be able to kind of customize that to fit exactly how you trade. I've met a lot of traders that trade similarly. I just mentioned Josh said a lot of things that I think about on a daily basis, but nonetheless, I still haven't run into somebody or two traders that trade exactly the same entries, same stock. It just doesn't happen. We're all a little bit different, and Benzinga Pro accounts for that to let you kind of customize this. So we're looking at the main workspace. This is actually going to be the third workspace that we're going to stop at, because this is the workspace that I use when the market opens. Now, what that means is that there's other work that I'm doing prior to the market opening. And that's kind of what I want to go over with here for you. So first of all, when I sit down at my desk, one of the first things I do is I click over to a different workspace that I have created. In this particular workspace, it utilizes 3 instances of the same tool, the newsfeed. But these news feeds are set up a little bit differently, designed to provide different information to me throughout the course of the trading day. So I really quickly want to set the stage, and then I'll talk about how I use these. On the right-hand side of the platform here, on this bigger news feed, you'll see that I actually have it filtered by 2 tickers in the search bar here. Okay, so I have the SPY ticker or the USO. Now, for those of you that are into computers in any type of fashion, you probably recognize this, and the fact that it has a little drop-down arrow means that you can change this operator from or to and or not. So right off the bat here, when you're using the search bar in the newsfeed, you have what we call Boolean control over your search terms. So you can search for different tickers, as I've done here, or you can search for keywords. And moreover, you can actually build complex expressions based on what you're looking for. So really, really cool feature there. In fact, I'm not really sure of any other newsfeed out there that gives you that much control over the news. Nonetheless, let's focus on this particular newsfeed. It's filtered by 2 tickers here, SPY or USO. And the reason that I do this is because I need to know what the big market moving news is. And I need that every day, sometimes multiple times per day, and sometimes at varying times of the day. So by filtering the news feed by ticker SPY, we are aggregating all of that news. Now, big news, what does that mean? Well, that means anything that could move the market as a whole, right? So if we get comments out of the Fed about interest rates or anything like that, that's likely to move the market. Those are going to be tagged under SPY. Comments from the president or out of the White House, as we're seeing here with this 1151 post on SPY regarding Iran. These are going to be important comments, and they could move the entire market, not just one, two, or a handful of stocks. The other thing in here are going to be some of the data prints that we were waiting for this morning, the CB consumer confidence print, as well as the jobs jolt opening. I know exactly where I can find these whenever I need that. And to me, that's value right there. Now, I need the news feed for more than that. So what I've chosen to do in this instance is actually add more news feeds. But these news feeds are configured differently and they do different things. So if we start on the bigger news feed here on the right and we move just directly left in here, you'll see I have another news feed, this time nothing in the search bar, but I've actually used a filter that's built into our sources and categories, and that's what I want to show you here. So if I click on the sources button, it's actually going to bring up the sources menu here, and these sources are different sources of news. So we're actually going to talk about this here in a little bit. Josh talked earlier about Pixelworks, and he actually showed the Benzinga Pro platform, and he showed one of the things that I'm going to show you here. But what he didn't show you are some of the other sources in here, and this is going to be important. I was extremely excited when he chose Pixelworks, and I'm extremely excited when he flipped over to the newsfeed, because I am about to deepen your knowledge on how this newsfeed can work. Okay, so first of all, we've got in the present configuration here, we have only Benzinga Wire checked. More specifically, if we actually click on the word, you can see that the Benzinga Wire news source has a host of other categories that you can filter your news feed by. Now, if you take a look at this list, you're not going to see hardly any check marks because I've only got one checked. And this category here at the bottom is WIM, W-I-I-M. Now, what that means is, why is it moving? So these are list of reasons as determined by our team of news desk teammates. When they figure out why a stock is moving, they give you the reason. Well, this is great. So a lot of the times I can figure out why a stock is moving. If I have the squawk feature turned on, which I highly advise all of you try at some point if you haven't already, this is an audio feed that will read breaking news. Sometimes it'll read stock XYZ is popping on heavy volume here. And when I flip over to it, I see, oh, this is a sympathy of a company that just reported earnings. They're trading up in sympathy with that company. There's a number of ways that you can identify it. But what I like to do is I like to have our team help me out with that. So I actually filter this newsfeed to only have the WIM category. Now, the result of this is I have now set up a newsfeed that has a chronological list of reasons why stocks are moving. This is extremely important because, first of all, in my example in the morning, when I sit down in the pre-market, I sit down here and I say, okay, what happened before I sat down? What happened either yesterday after hours or this morning while I was in the shower or getting ready for my day? What happened? And I come down here, I scroll to the beginning of the day, I take a look into yesterday, and I say, okay, well, we've got a bunch of these companies that are reporting earnings. CISS showed a 9.1 stake in the company, or there's a 13G showing a 9.1 stake in the company. Okay, great. And then we have earnings here from this morning. So really quickly, in a matter of minutes, I can figure out what's going on, what I missed, and kind of be prepared for the day already. Now, some of you out there, some of you day traders might be realizing, well, gosh, if you're showing us a piece of news that is explaining why a stock is moving, doesn't that imply that the stock is already moving? And the answer is yes. So I don't use this as necessarily an alert for a new trade. Instead, I use this for plugging the gaps, right? Filling in the holes with information so that I can make better decisions going forward. Maybe one of these catalysts is so great that I think to myself, hey, this actually might keep going. And then I'll dive into the actual chart. We'll find different key levels, resistance, support, different key levels as outlined by different moving averages, VWAP, whatever it is that you use, you can do all of that and kind of set up a trade. I am of the belief, very, very simple belief here, that more information, more better. More information, more better, and hopefully on the other side of that, more profit. So I always want to have as much information here as possible. Now, the last news feed that I have down here, the one that's highlighted all in red, I use a very similar function. I use the sources function the sources and the category function to filter for things that are very, very specific. In the example of this particular news feed, I'm scanning for things that are hot, exclusive or a market moving exclusive. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is because if we do something as an exclusive to Benzinga, I know right off the bat that I or our community is going to be the first to be able to react to that. So in some cases here, we'll say, you know, we have an interview coming up on Benzinga's YouTube with the CEO of ticker XYZ. Hey, maybe there will be news there. Maybe I should prepare for that. And so I use this news feed just to kind of stay on top of all of those things. Key takeaway from this is that I set this up for things that I need. The newsfeed is going to allow you to set this up for anything that you need. And in fact, just to demonstrate that a little bit more here, I'm going to go ahead and add a brand new newsfeed with no filters applied, just to kind of show you some of the other things that you can do with this. Now, let's talk about the Pixelwork example that Josh mentioned at the beginning here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do exactly what he did, and I'm going to filter my newsfeed for Pixelworks. So the first thing that you're going to see here is that news post that he read to you. Pixelworks shares are trading higher after the company entered into a multi-year agreement with Walt Disney Studios. I don't really think I need to elaborate on this at all. Pixelworks is a very, very small company. By the way, if you mouse over the ticker anywhere in the platform, it will show you the price, the change percent, and also give you a sparkline chart so you can kind of get an idea of what it's doing. We don't really need to talk about what this means for this company. I mean, Disney is a huge company. It's been around for a long time. This is obviously a positive. But one of the things you might be noticing here is, well, this is that whim category, right? If I click on any content within the Benzinga newsfeed, it will expand the content. Now in here, all we have is a headline, because remember, a whim is a 1 or 2 sentence synopsis on why a stock is moving. And you can see it's tagged with the category tag here, whim. So you can confirm that this is a whim. But there's another piece of news here, and you might be looking at that timestamp and saying, well, 9/18, well, you know, this started to move a little bit earlier. This news looks a little late. And if you had said that, I totally understand where you're coming from, but that's not actually what's going on here. Again, we're going to talk about what Benzinga Pro can do for you. Let's go back to the sources menu. If I click on sources, we obviously have the Benzinga Wire checked by default. That's how any new news feed is loaded. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to check press releases. Now, I'm sure a lot of you know what press releases are. Companies, when they report earnings, they disseminate new information to the public, a lot of times via a press release. So we want to be able to capture those. Now, the cool part about press releases, I'm just going to go ahead and check the box here. It's going to add all of these different press release companies to the newsfeed, and then I'm going to press done. Now you can see that I've actually added more content to the newsfeed because I've added another source of information. Look at the purple highlighted line at the beginning of today. 8 a.m. on the dot, 8 a.m. :00:00. This literally came right when it was released. Walt Disney Studios and Pixelworks enters into a first of its kind multi-year agreement to expand the reach of TrueCut motion technology. This is the press release that caused this stock to pop this morning. If you want to read the entire press release, all you have to do is click on that content and it will show you the exact press release that these other press release companies get. So again, I just kind of wanted to show you the difference here between a whim and some of the other sources, and how all of this functionality is built into your platform. Again, when there is more content, like is the case in a press release, you'll be able to access that exact content. In the case of a whim, when it's just a headline, there's only that headline. So right away there, you can already see how you can set these news feeds up to show you more information. Okay, so before we move away from the news feed, I also want to show you some other things that you can do. We've talked about filtering the news feed by tickers. We've talked about filtering the news feed by keywords. Some sample keywords for this would be something like primary endpoint, or FDA news that it had where something is accepted, or something like that, or a phase 2 trial, positive clinical data. Any of these keywords that you recognize moves the underlying asset, you can then filter your news feed to find that. So I think Josh said earlier, trading is one of those jobs where you never stop learning. Fausto, maybe that was you. I apologize if I'm misciting that. I could not agree with that more. Trading is a process of lifelong learning. I'm someone that came from 2 teachers as parents, and they instilled to me at a young age, no matter what you do, always keep learning. And I'm very, very glad that they did, because trading is a great example of that. You absolutely need to keep adding information to your toolbox. Benzinga Pro can help you make sense of some of those things. Really quickly, some other ways that you can filter the newsfeed. We talked about tickers, we talked about keywords, we talked a little bit about sources. There are some other ways that you can actually filter this as well. And I apologize, my computer lags a little bit here when I'm screen sharing. So again, I apologize for some of the little bit of lag here. One of the other things that you can do is you can filter your news feed by what we call a scanner. And these are basically any of the filters that are in the scanner tool. So for example, if you only want to have a news feed set up for stocks that have a price between $0 and $20, we can very easily do that. We can add price as a filter to the newsfeed tool, and then we can select under 20 as the filter that we want to apply there. If you have a custom value, sorry about that. If you have a custom value that doesn't appear in the list, simply select custom and then input your own data. Now, when I press done, I'm only receiving news about stocks that have a price under $20. You can also jump to historical dates. If you have a watch list of stocks that you trade on a regular basis, you can filter your news feed to only show you news about the watch list. So again, I'm going to drill it home in pretty much any presentation that I do. Customization, the ability to kind of mold the tool into what you want, huge benefit here for Benzinga Pro. Okay.
Really good stuff.
Ahead.
Ryan, real quick. So Linda has a question. Tesla's hitting new lows. Let's pull up Tesla. Let's see if we have any news out on that. Maybe even a WIMS.
Yep, sure. So this is a great question, Linda. Appreciate it. And thank you, James, for staying on top of me here. The first thing that I need to do here, though, is I actually need to clear off that price because Tesla is over $20. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to go ahead and search for Tesla. Here is your news for Tesla. Now, remember, we did turn press releases on as well. So I don't really see any new fresh news up here. There's this market clubhouse memo, most important earnings reports. This looks like kind of like an earnings preview news post. I don't necessarily see any fresh news here that's causing Tesla to move lower. So what I will assume then, in the absence of any other information, is that Tesla is obeying some type of technical level. Now, if I take a look at the Tesla chart here, sorry, I don't have that ready here. It's going to take me a sec to flip over there. If I take a look at the Tesla chart here, I can see that the most recent red candle on the way down actually broke today's lows. So to me, this absolutely seems like a low of day break on Tesla. And again, I'm really sorry about the platform lagging here. It happens when I present. Let me go ahead and look at a 1 minute chart here. So here's what I'm seeing. So I didn't see any fresh news there, Linda. I take a look at the intraday chart here and I look at the intraday low and look what happened. As soon as that snapped, this really kind of sped up a little bit on the sell-off. I can actually see that the volume expanded to the downside here as that move was being made, but I don't see any news. So I'm actually not surprised to see it bouncing a little bit here. Okay. So Michael's saying, look at 8 o'clock in the morning here on Tesla. Well, so that is in here. Let's see if I can actually find that here. Here it is. This is the post that Michael is referring to. This is 8 o'clock on the dot, 11 seconds past 8. The Elon Musk of Vietnam just made $4 billion on a move to take on Tesla and a 1,414.7% stock surge. I don't think that this is what's causing Tesla to move. But again, what I said at the outset of this, more information, more better, right? You want to have as much information to make your trading decisions as possible. But just for the sake of the example here, because of Linda's question, looking at this, I think that this just kind of accelerated as Tesla tested the intraday low. As it moved closer to that intraday low, we started to get some expanding selling. Once we broke that, those sellers became exhausted. The stock is bouncing. We will see if this bounce continues or if we get another leg down from this broken area here. But this would be my best guess, just kind of doing this on the fly. Okay. Let me get back to the actual example of how the morning unfolds here. We talked a little bit about using the newsfeed workspace that I have, where I have multiple news feeds set up. I showed you how you can filter that news feed to really kind of go after what you want. I showed you how you can add other sources of news. We used press release as an example, but we have other sources in there like partner links, which would include news from things like Seeking Alpha, Guru Focus, TechCrunch, etc. So there's a lot of different sources that you can kind of figure out. And I might as well use this time to explain that the Benzinga wire source itself, that is considered our aggregated news source. So what that means is that if there's a piece of news that comes out via the Dow Jones Newswire or via Reuters or via Bloomberg, that is going to be aggregated in our Benzinga wire news source. That's what our team of news desk teammates are doing all day, every day. They're aggregating news, whether it's exclusive to us or exclusive to somebody else. They're trying to get you that news as soon as possible. In some cases, it can be done automatically via an API. In other cases, we need smart humans to be able to go out and find that, practiced humans to go out and find that. So that's kind of where we're at there.
Excellent stuff.
Go ahead, James. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, trying to set you up with a bit of a segue here. One of the things that I really like to use Pro for, and to the point of Tesla, is having presets. And I'll make a point. Let's say you're trading tech or EVs, and you have your whole watch list set up with all of your alerts and everything set up, and you notice rotation maybe coming out of tech into, let's say, commodities, right? So normally you'd have to scramble to set up a watch list, get your alerts set up, get your levels set up, everything like that. With Pro, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because Ryan has probably 100, 110 presets. You can just pull up that preset and you're good to go. Ryan, do you want to get into a bit of your own presets and how you navigate the market?
Yeah, I mean, I do want to show the movers tool here, but just because of the example here, one of the things that James is talking about, you're going to have different presets for different tools. So for example, I have the scanner tool, and I'm going to show you how to actually create different scans, save different scans, and access different scans in 1 second here. But one of the other things that James is mentioning here are going to be watch lists, right? Don't forget, watch lists don't just serve as a list of stocks that you enter that are moving or whatever. It's not just a watch list like it might be in some of your other more traditional software, or like your broker. Like for example, my Thinkorswim has a watch list feature. I of course use it, but it's just a watch list. The cool thing about Benzinga Pro is that anything that you make into a watch list can then be used as a filter. So to James's comment here about presets, you can actually set up a news feed to only show you stocks about certain buckets. So for example, if I expand my drop-down menu here for my watch list tool, this is what James was talking about. You can see how many different watch lists I have here. It's just a ton. And I do these, you know, if something is happening, I'll create a different watch list and I'll add different tickers to it. And it makes it really helpful for me to review the news, review the change, or simply filter a scanner by that. So absolutely, you can do this. As far as I know, there's no limit to how many different watch lists that you can have. And again, remember, those actually turn into an active filter that you can use. Moreover, you can actually link your broker to Benzinga Pro. Now, I will say here, I hesitate to use the word link because one of the questions I always get is, can you trade from Benzinga Pro? The answer is no. Frankly, there was a great question earlier about direct access trading. Frankly, I would always want to trade from the broker, right? I want as little intermediary steps between me and the market maker as possible. So even if that functionality did exist, I'm not even sure I would take advantage of that. I want to enter trades directly from my broker. I don't want to go through a third party. Now, with that being said, there is never a day where I don't keep Benzinga Pro open on some type of screen because I use this as a supplementary tool. So if I'm filtering a news feed by a watch list, or if I'm filtering a scanner by a watch list, I don't have to click on anything. I can literally just glance at a dedicated area on my desktop, and I know I'm going to be able to find that information. Okay, so this is a good example, James. Let me keep on going with the example that I had lined up here for the movers tool. We talked a little bit about reviewing the news feeds first, figuring out what took place when you weren't there or the night before. And then we talked about reviewing the WIMs, seeing what's moving. Now it's time to actually see what's moving. So again, we're still in the pre-market here in my average day. The market hasn't opened. So what I'm using is I'm using the movers tool. Now, this is one of the most popular tools in Benzinga Pro. And the reason that it is because it is extremely easy to use. It requires almost no setup. Once you kind of figure out what you're looking for here, it's just a couple of clicks of a mouse and it provides you the information that you're looking for. So again, going back to my daily routine here, the next thing that I want to do is I want to figure out what are the gappers going to be today, whether they're gapping up or gapping down. And the movers tool is the perfect tool to very quickly help me get that information. Now, one of the other things that you're looking at on the screen here is I have a details tool open with it. This is a repeat of what you saw on my main workspace when we started the presentation. Again, you can open multiple instances of these tools, you can create multiple configurations, and you can use them for different tasks. What I'm talking about here is identifying pre-market gappers. So what am I going to do? In the movers tool, in the filters that I have here at the top, I'm going to select gainers. I'm the long bias guy. I'm always looking for stuff that's moving up or trading up. Not much of a shorter, but that doesn't matter for Benzinga Pro. We'll get into that here in a sec. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to scan the pre-market session, right? Because I want to figure out what's going to gap. So I want to know what's moving in the pre-market. Those stocks that are moving are going to be our gappers. The next thing that I'm going to do here for period, I'm going to make sure that I have session selected, because what this is going to do is scan the entire session. If I had 30 minutes selected here, this would only scan the last 30 minutes of the pre-market session. And you'll notice that when I clicked on 30 minutes here, my entire list changed. Not only did the tickers in the list change, but so too did these change percent values. The reason that that is the case is because this tool is reporting you the information based on the filters that you have selected. So in this case, I'm saying, hey, what's trading up? What's gaining in the pre-market over the last 30 minutes? Well, the answer here is FGen was your biggest gainer over the last 30 minutes of the pre-market. It was up 12.34% in that time. Now, again, going back to the example here, what I like to do is I like to have this on session because I want to scan for all of the things that are moving around in the pre-market. I want to have that list here. Now, what I have is a descending order list from the highest percent change. Look at what stock happens to reside at the top of our list. It's our good old friend Pixelworks that we have been trading on the live program as well as on this webinar when Josh took one. Okay, so here's Pixelworks. You can see that it's trading up here in the pre-market. I don't have the session shading on here. This is actually something that I'm kind of working through with developers at the moment, but traditionally there will be shading here to make this a little bit easier to see. You can always tell, frankly, by the volume surge right around the open, but that's neither here nor there. You can see in the pre-market, we took one pop up, then we kind of consolidated a little. Then we took the next leg up. When we took this leg up, we were rejected right at this 221, 222 price. We kind of came back in. We reclaimed that VWAP. And then as soon as the market opened, this thing ripped out of the gate. So in the pre-market, if I rewind here, hang on just one sec here. If I rewind here, this is effectively what we were looking at. Okay. I don't have the regular session here. In fact, I should move back to the regular session. Let me get that 9. Gotta get this time right there. There we go, right in here. So this is about what we had right as the market opened. Well, as that was happening, Pixelworks traded up on what I call expanding volume, which is a key thing that I'm looking for my day trading setups. And we took this VWAP. Okay, we were rejected there the first time. When we sold back off, we held the low that we just put in, and then we reclaimed this VWAP. And look at the volume sticks that we did this on. These were the biggest volume sticks of the day. For a day trade, this is where I want to be. I want to be with the rest of the volume for several reasons. One, I want to be able to make sure I can actually get my order, right? I want to get filled on my entry and I want to get filled on my exit. And if there's a lot of volume, the stock's liquid, it's much easier for me to do that. So we have the stock trading up. We have the volume expanding significantly. We move through this key level and the thing pushes up to 240, starts to get a little heavy there, has a little bit of back and forth action, and then actually sells off. My out, I sold into the up move. When I'm doing a day trade scalp, I don't necessarily care about top ticking it. I don't care about bottom ticking it. I don't care about top ticking it. I want to capture the meat of the move. I'm often looking at volume to do that. When I get a pop through that level, if I have a level that I'm waiting for, great, I'll look for that. If I don't, I'll just sell into the strength. And Josh talked earlier about using some of your other tools like level 2, time and sales. I use those all the time. He also mentioned Bookmap, which is great for finding different levels. But I use those all the time to figure out exactly where I'm going to sell and all of that. You can actually see that Pixelworks is setting up here again. After that initial impulse move, we have a corrective move back to the VWAP. We have a number of tests at this VWAP line where Pixelworks holds in there. And then guess what? It starts to move again. We get a little bit of that expanding volume again. We get another push to the highs. We actually created a double top here at 244 that rejected this. And now it really kind of sold off. It actually came back to balance here, held above the VWAP and then knifed. And after this knife, it kind of discovered the area lower that it's going to hold at. Now it's made a move back to VWAP. Now I can see intraday here, we've actually made 3 attempts at the VWAP. Technically, we've gone above it, but we really haven't broken out from that. So, and I think personally, the reason that we haven't is because the volume did not allow us to do that. The volume was not expanding down here the way it was at the open. This gives us different conditions for this trade. So right away, I could tell in the pre-market before the market even opened, this is a stock that has a PR. By the way, that whim that we were talking about, that reason why the stock is moving, look what's printed at the top of the details tool for you here. When a stock has an active whim on it, if you focus that stock in any details tool within your platform, it will automatically display that for you. This blue box here says Pixelworks shares are trading higher after the company entered into a multi-year agreement with Walt Disney Studios. That's the news that we read to you earlier. So even if you're coming to some of these things late, if we figured out why it's moving, we're going to tell you why it's moving. We're trying to make the due diligence and research process take less time. If you are well informed, hopefully you can focus on your execution in your trading. Better execution should lead to more profits.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's really our main motto is news before it moves or as it's moving. So just 2 things really quickly from Lee and Alan. Typically we use the chat window in our standard Benzinga Pro webinar. I do see your 2 questions here in the Q&A section. So just very quickly, what is the difference between the news on the free portion of Benzinga and the news feed? And the second one, Alan, which is a great question. Can you set triggers for watch list and example volume and price changes? Ryan's going to get into that, but yes, so much more than that too. Custom keyword alerts as well. If you're trading tech and you want to know anytime the word AI, or if you're trading biotech, you want to know when the word phase is in the headline, you could set alerts for that as well.
Okay, James, remind me of that first question again. What is the difference between the newsfeed and the paid version and the free version? Did I get that right? Okay, great. So let me go back to that newsfeed workspace that we just created. The free version of the newsfeed gives you the unfiltered newsfeed. I think you probably get all of the news. You can't really adjust any of the sources. You can't use any of the scanner variables. You basically can't use any of the filtering abilities that makes the news feed as valuable it is, but you can still get the news. Okay, so I would say that when it comes to the news feed, the one on the free version is probably very much akin to the news feed in your broker. However, the version of the news feed on the paid version is that on steroids and HGH. It literally will allow you to do anything that you can do, including jump to previous dates. Let me know if that answers your question. Now, that second question there, James, can you give that one to me again?
Yes, absolutely. Give me just a moment here. Can you set triggers for watch list, in example, volume, and price changes?
Okay, great question. No, that is not available yet. However, let me go back to the movers workspace that we were just taking a look at. You asked about price alerts and volume alerts. So first of all, right off the top, just to answer your question, there are no alert features built into the watch list tool. Currently, the alert features that exist in Benzinga Pro are tool dependent. So different tools have different alert capabilities. Now, it should be known here that one of the big things in our development pipeline for 2024 is going to be a complete revamp of the alert system to allow you to add more customized granular alerts. So your question about price change, or excuse me, a price alert and a volume alert, those are definitely going to be available in the future. In fact, price alerts are available right now, and I'm going to show you how to do that. The caveat here is that you do not access the price alert from the watch list. Instead, you access it from the details tool. So again, the tool that I have here on the right, I have Pixelworks in focus here. You'll notice in the upper right corner of the details tool, I have 3 blue buttons. First one here is alerts. This is the price alert that you are asking about. Okay, so if you want to say, if we're looking at this chart here and you want to say, okay, well, I don't want to be faked out by Pixelworks's pops back to the VWAP here. Instead, what I want to know is I want to know when this trade's above the VWAP. So let's go ahead and add 221 here, and I want to know when the price is above or equal to it. And you know what? I'm actually going to do 222 because I want to ensure that we actually trade at a value above that VWAP. Then I'm going to go ahead and click add. That price alert you can see is now active here. I will get a pop-up in Benzinga Pro when that price alert is triggered. So price alerts are available right now. They are not in the watch list. It's found on the details tool, but keep your eyes peeled because at some point this year, I don't have a timeline, otherwise I'd give it to you. At some point this year, we are looking to drastically expand the alert capabilities. Okay, did I get those 2 questions? Was that satisfactory?
Yeah, that was right on the nose. That was right on the nose. Do you want to, I don't know if we got into the calendar at all, but I know analyst ratings is a big one.
We're definitely getting into the calendar. Josh set me up earlier, so we're about to spike this ball right here. Real quickly, I just talked to you about the blue alert button. There's also 2 other blue buttons up here. One allows a quick add to a watch list. So if you're rolling through tickers off of the movers tool here, or if you combine the details tool with a scanner and you're clicking through some of those tickers and you see a new ticker that you want to add to the watch list, there's a shortcut right here. You don't actually have to open the watch list tool. Just click the button, add it to the watch list. And then if you want to take notes on these stocks, there's a notes feature here. Now, the notes feature is underappreciated, in my opinion. For those of you that trade the same stock over and over again, I know in our live trading program, we have a couple of traders that trade Tesla every single day. So what they do is they actually use the notes feature as a makeshift trading journal. I traded Tesla on a VWAP breakout here today, looking for 2 points on a move towards the highs, didn't end up getting it, or whatever the case is, whatever notes that you put in your trading journal, whether it's your entry, your exit, the performance of the stock, the conditions that you found yourself in for taking that trade, you can add all of that in the notes right here from the platform. So real cool stuff. Let's talk about that calendar real quick, because I was so excited when he was talking about that earlier. The calendar tool. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with calendars. Our calendar tool is actually multiple tools in it, frankly. We call it the calendar tool, but if you expand the drop down that you find right at the top of the tool, right under the search bar, you'll actually notice that there are 14 different calendars. All of them, of course, provide different information for you. And these effectively serve as different tools. Now, here is what I loaded up earlier. Josh was talking about an economics calendar. Here is a really good way where you can find out what are the economic prints that we're going to be dealing with here this week. So you can see that the first thing that I've done here is I've actually selected the date range, right? I have the date range for this week, 128 to 203. So this is listing all of the different economic events and not just the US ones. Notice that the top of the list here actually has some events from South Africa here. Oh, looks like I finally crashed it here. I got too many windows open. Let me just go ahead and refresh this and dive right back in here. This should actually work a little bit better now that I've refreshed it. You can see here that we have more than just the United States in here. So we're going to give you economics for more than just this country. Of course, you can change the sort on these columns any way that you want. You can look at all the different economic prints in here. And then also the other thing that you can do in addition to sorting is you can actually filter. Here's one of those examples I talked about at the beginning. The program or the software, the platform here allows you to do a lot of stuff, but some of that stuff isn't necessarily available. If you look at the screen, you might not see the filters button, but it's right here on the side. So if I go ahead and click filters, and now I click country, now I can actually filter by a specific country. So if I wanted to see Italy, for example, I can just go ahead and type in Italy, and it will filter that list to only show me the economic prints for Italy. Now, this is just one of the calendars. Josh also mentioned that we have an earnings calendar in here. James, you mentioned a the analyst ratings calendar. So let's talk about that. What I did is I just flipped over to earnings here. I actually have a filter on here. Yep. See how I had filters left over? I had surprise revenue because I was looking for earnings that beat by a specific surprise. And I was also filtering for importance. So this just kind of piggybacks off of what I was just talking about how you can filter any of these different calendars. Well, so here you go. Now you're looking at all of the different earnings prints. And again, remember, I have this set for this week. So there's a lot of stuff in there. If I want to change this to today, if I just click on the date and I click today, boom, here's all of the earnings prints here for today. It will denote if it's before the market or after the market. I can again filter on here. If you're looking at this list and you're like, oh my God, there are so many stocks reporting here. This is too much for me to go through. I don't care about a lot of these stocks. Some of them are probably pretty small. One of the other things that you can do, let's go to our filters menu. Let's expand market cap and let's go ahead and type in, maybe 5B isn't good enough. Let's go ahead and type in 50B. Of course, the platform is smart enough to know what you mean when you type B. I don't have to sit here typing a bunch of zeros. I can just denote 50 billion as 50B. And now look at my filtered list. Much easier for me to go through. I can just start with some of the bigger names. I can take a look at what the EPS is, what the estimated EPS is. I can actually, again, I can mouse over the ticker. Any place in the software that you see a colored ticker really quickly. If it's green, that means it's up from the previous close. If it's red, that means it's down from the previous close. But if you mouse over it, you get some information. And likewise, if you click on it, it actually opens a details tool if you don't already have one and presents you the overview chart. If you do already have one, it knows what you're trying to do, and it simply changes the focus to the new stock that you're looking at. Let me go ahead and close this real quick. I do want to show you the analyst ratings calendar. Here's another one. Analyst ratings, we talked a little bit about how the platform can do all types of things. It can do things to help you day trade. It can do things to help you swing trade or invest. Here's a perfect example for swing trade. How many of you have tried to open up a swing trade based on an analyst recommendation? Let me get a 1 in the chat if you have followed some analyst call into a stock. Okay, not a whole lot of swing traders here. Not a whole lot of swing traders here. Maybe we are actually mostly day traders, which is totally fine. So the point that I was trying to make here with the analyst ratings is that, you know, there's a lot of information in here, and you might think to yourself with, well, there's no way I can possibly, you know, take a look at all of these analysts. Well, maybe you'll start off with a firm that you like, filter for the firm, or a particular analyst that you saw on TV, filter for the analyst. Maybe you only want to find stocks that are upgrades and have a positive rating, like buy or outperform. Well, you can do that too. All of that stuff here is going to be available in the filters menu. So remember, when you load in a tool in its default state, as we've done here with the calendar, there might be a lot of information in there. Just remember, there are definitely tools and settings that can help you make more sense of that. The big premise here that I'm going to hammer home, Benzinga Pro allows you to filter and mold this to whatever it is that you're looking for. I, too, have followed plenty of downtown Josh Brown calls. And let me tell you, that dude in real life, that dude is fun to be around. If you ever get the chance to hang around Josh Brown, I highly advise that you do it. He's a great guy. But that's neither here nor there. Okay. So that covers the calendar. I can't go over all of the different calendars that we have in here. We've talked about analyst ratings, earnings, and economics. Of course, there's an FDA calendar in there. There's an IPO calendar in there. There's actually an unusual option activity calendar, which is really cool. This is our unusual option activity algorithm. And because it's in a calendar format, you can filter it. So for example, if you only want to see unusual option activity that are calls or puts, this is exactly how you would accomplish that. You would literally just come into the calendar and filter it as you see fit. So, okay. So we talked a little bit about the calendar tool. If you guys have any other questions, let me know. I know we're running out of time here. I really did want to show you one more thing, and this absolutely pertains to day trading. So remember here, now that I've done a refresh here, I actually have a little bit faster platform. Let me just kind of review real quick. I start off by giving myself an idea of what took place while you weren't here, what took place in the morning. Go over the news, kind of get myself up to speed. Okay, once we've done that, which we can do very, very quickly, now it's time to find the stocks that are gapping. So I'm going to click on my movers workspace. We're going to start with the stocks that are gapping up. If I want to see the stocks that are gapping down, I can just hit losers. here's a really interesting one. This was actually a day trade yesterday. Here's an example of ONMD. This stock was down here in the pre-market, and look at the huge move on expanding volume that I just talked about. Look at the move that this stock made. It doesn't matter that the stock was down on the day. It still gave us a tradable setup here. So again, if you want to just prepare yourself, things that are going up, things that are going down. In this case, I've applied some filters in here. I applied a minimum volume filter of 600K. I heard Josh talking about Fausto doing this, making sure that the plays that you have in the morning all have enough volume. That is exactly what I'm doing right here. I'm saying if this stock hasn't traded 600,000 shares in the pre-market, it might be up for any number of reasons. It does not fit my criteria for a day trade. I absolutely need that liquidity in order to successfully day trade. So one of the things I do is I apply that filter. The other thing that I've noticed is that for stocks that are under $1, for whatever reason, I cannot seem to trade those very well. Call it what you want, pump and dump, chat room running it, whatever you think it is fine. So what I do is I say, you know what? Don't even show me those penny stocks. Just show me the stocks that are above $1. By the way, ONMD here popping back to the VWAP. Let's see how it performs after. It looks like it's breaking through. So we'll see. Oh, so, okay, this is the mover scanner. Once the market actually opens, now it's showtime. So now I click over to my main workspace. Again, this workspace is designed to find me day trading opportunities every single day. Pixelworks, although it was on our pre-market list of gappers that we identified with the movers tool, and we identified the news catalyst, as soon as the market opened, guess what stock showed up on the relative volume scanner? You guessed it, Pixelworks, because the volume was so huge, it carried into the regular session. So what I have here, real quick, and I know I'm running out of time here. What I have here is I have a scanner. I have a details tool. I have an unusual option activity calendar, and I have two signals tools. The first signal tool reports anytime a stock is halted or resumed. We saw a number of halts in some of the stocks this morning. Any of you Nexi traders out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then the other signals tool that I have here is reporting new session highs and new session lows and counting them. This is an old school measure of momentum that I got from a private equity veteran who used Goldman Sachs products since the 80s. Said, you know, anytime a stock is printing hundreds of new highs per day, you can be sure the momentum is behind that one. So I incorporate that into my scan as well. But the crux of this scan is going to be the relative volume scanner. Now, in this case, I'm sure some of you have heard of relative volume before. The thing about this one is that we actually have an intraday relative volume filter. We have a daily one, of course, if you're doing nightly scans and you want to see what traded up on relative volume today and produce a list of potential targets for tomorrow, of course you can do that. But the other thing that we have here is this relative volume scanner. And this to me is the bread and butter of what I'm trying to do here. RVOL 5M30D. This means that it is looking at the relative volume of the given 5-minute window. So it doesn't matter if I look at this at 10 o'clock in the morning, 8:30 in the morning, or 2 p.m. in the afternoon. It's always looking at the rolling 5-minute window, and it's comparing that volume to the 30-day average of the same window. So I'm comparing apples to apples. If we take a look at the Pixelworks chart here, I don't want to compare the volume right now to the volume in the morning. It's exponentially different. I want to be able to compare the average volume now to other timeframes that have similar average volume. And that's exactly what this filter does. The other thing that I do here, I have the same volume liquidity filter to make sure I'm not trading something that's too thin or is not trading enough. And then again, going back to what I told you earlier, I'm a long bias trader. I'm looking for day trades to the long side predominantly. So what I have here is a change percent over the last minute. I have a 0.2 filter added on there. That means that a stock that's down on the day, like we just saw with ONMD, if I had this as a change filter, it would not even show that to me. But instead, I want to know when that starts to curl up, when the volume starts to flow in and we start to move off of a level off the bottom, whether it's a support level or otherwise, I want to be alerted to that. I want to be able to potentially trade that. And that is exactly what I've built this scanner to do. The other cool thing about the details tool, in addition to it showing you the different charts that you click through here, it has information for a lot of the other tools that we just took a look at. Okay, so let me get off GMBL here. Let me actually see if there's a little bit bigger of a stock here. We're seeing kind of a lot of penny stocks in here. Here, ATGE. This actually had a new short report, and they bring in the woman on CNBC here to talk about it. Here's a great example, okay? We're looking at the chart here. I've got the news desk is telling me exactly why it's moving. Adtalem global education shares are trading lower following a report suggesting Fahmi Qadir, I hope I pronounced her name correctly, has taken a short position in the stock. Oh, also, by the way, it's got earnings in 2 days after the market open or after the market closes, February 1st, and has the conference call that day. So right away, I'm kind of preparing myself for what's going on here. But the other thing is, what if I click on the calendar tab here in details? Okay, it doesn't pay a dividend. It's got no results for the dividend calendar. How about if guidance? Oh, look, here are all of the different guidance, including the historical guidance figures that we had. Same deal for earnings. Same deal for analyst ratings. So all of the stuff that you can do in the platform, there's likely ways that you can access the same information. Do you want to take a look at the financials? We've got that right here. You want to export that because you're an Excel wizard and you want to build some crazy pivot table? Go ahead, export the table. You can do that. No problem at all. You want to know what the short interest is on this stock, considering we're talking about a new short report on this stock? Well, there's a tab for that too. And furthermore, we actually don't estimate the short interest. We tell you what they are from the filing. So this is the legit short information. Okay, I might have gone too long. I'm sorry about that. Someone reel me back in.
No, you're totally fine, Ryan. We are 4 minutes out from 1 o'clock, so definitely squeezing it on the time. I know I believe Fausto has a link for you guys to sign up with Pro if you'd like what you've seen today. There is one question from William I'd like to address because it's very relatable to me. Can a bonehead learn how to use this? It's a bit overwhelming. And coming from a fellow bonehead, yes, absolutely. When I first started using Pro, it was overwhelming. And to that, we have several different chat rooms. We have live support sessions every single Friday that are designed to help you learn and understand how to use Pro. So yes, William, dive in. We'll help you get started.
Let me actually show you one more thing here to address William's question. William, first of all, that's a great question. And I would encourage you to not be thrown off by that. Anything good is, worth doing, and it might be a little bit more difficult to actually get there. There is a lot of information in here. So 2 key points. Number one, first of all, you don't have to use everything in order for this to be successful for you. We have plenty of people that just use a handful of the tools, maybe a scanner, a details, and the squawk. But it makes them enough money to say, you know what, I don't even need the other stuff in the platform. So number one, you don't have to use everything in order for this to be valuable. As long as it's helping you make better trades, then we're doing our job. But secondly, okay, we actually have the welcome page here. If I click on the welcome page and then I click on for more information, we have walkthrough sessions that are Zoom calls that we do on Friday, but we also have this Pro course. Now, this Pro course is hosted on a different website called Thinkific. This is absolutely free. This is a video-based course that breaks the platform down into different chapters. The chapters are arranged by the different tools that you have access to. It will walk you through the basics, the fundamentals of how to use those tools. It is available 24/7. It costs nothing to sign up. It costs nothing to create an account. You can literally use this as a resource anytime you want. Can't sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning? Brush up on your Benzinga Pro skills. No problem at all. Furthermore, you can, of course, reach out to our team. That's one of the things that separates us from our competitors. We have a great team of great teammates here that can help you learn any part of this platform. So, William, I hope that you won't be scared off by this. Here's the other thing that I'll say. We also offer a trial. So go ahead and start the trial, kind of get your feet wet a little bit, and then make your decision. So, all right, anything else that we want to cover? How did I do on time?
We are doing good on time. Fausto, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Let me tell you, you guys definitely killed it. Ryan, I mean, you really know your stuff on this platform. That's why we wanted you guys to be here. We promote the link and Benzinga all the time in our trading room. And the thing is that there's just so many bells and whistles that are on the platform, depending on you're a swing trader or an investor, or even like what we do, more day trading. And one thing I really like about your features, you pointing out more towards the end, is where you're kind of showing how to kind of filter out like some of the, volume, dollar amounts, and not seeing more penny stocks and so on. Some platforms don't really do that, and it's more about scanning it. But we're going to post up the link, everyone, to get a nice demo of that platform. Does anyone have the link? I don't know if who's there? Oh, there we go. Okay. So there's the link if everybody wants to get the Benzinga Pro, and there's a promo deal for that. And listen, we could only show you so much. One of the big things that we do here at Cybertrain University is that, we tell you not to buy anything, with any brokerage firm or any platform like a Benzinga. Not that we don't want you to buy it, because some people just don't know how to use it. And they'll buy it and just don't know how to use it. And then they're like, well, and then they get it. But once you start learning how to trade and you understand why you use one feature and this and that, and you be like, oh, now I know why you want this. Oh, now I know why you want that. Now you know why we want to bring Benzinga here and say, okay, now we know why we want you to use this platform and buy it, because we can only show you so much. So if you're one of the active traders in here and you've been with us for a while and you see it, you got to have it on your end. It's like when I keep promoting, you see me at NASDAQ and doing presentations NASDAQ. And I'm like, listen, it's $15. Don't buy it yet. Let's show you how to use it and then go buy it. And then you see the book map and you're like, don't buy it. Let's teach you how to do it. Now we're doing a lesson on this. And I'll tell you, couldn't bring anybody better that could explain it better than you, James and Ryan. So anyone have any last minute questions before we let them go? And we're going to close out. No, Grant, you're more than welcome. William Ireland platform is informative. It's great. That's why I bought the book map. Right. And that's why you got to also look at using the Benzinga with it side by side with it. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much, Ryan. From Debbie. Thank you. Bob says the replay. Yes, we're going to send out the replay out to everyone. If you are signed in right now, you are. If you're watching on our social media channel, once again, you could just, if you are linked in and register for it, we'll send it out also, and you'll be able to access it on our YouTube playlist. All right.
But Fausto, would you mind if I answered Alan's question before we depart for the day here?
Sure, anything.
Okay, Alan asked, and I'll be very quick. Alan asked, you mentioned a couple of filters that were most helpful to start with. Could you mention those few tools again? So, Casey, you mentioned two things there in your question. You mentioned filters and tools, but I can do both for you. First of all, when it comes to tools, I absolutely encourage everybody start to become familiar with the newsfeed. News trumps almost everything. You could find the best setup in the world. If that company releases a piece of news that's material to the business, it's going to change that setup, that technical formation. So get familiar with at least reading news so that you can identify different keywords and patterns. So the newsfeed, I would also recommend the details tool, just because of the wealth of information that you can get from one individual tool by utilizing the subtabs. And then I would also start off with the movers scanner. Remember, this is this very easy to use scanner that just requires a couple of clicks. If you find that the movers tool doesn't give you what you need, then I would try to use the scanner tool. It is a more full-blown scanner. It might be a little bit more hard to input your variables because it's a little bit more technical, but it's going to give you the results that you're looking for. As far as the filter that I mentioned, filters, this really is dependent on your trading style. But for me, especially for day trading, I could not do day trading without intraday relative volume. To me, volume tells the story on the trade. So that's what I want to identify. The entire scan is built around RVol 5M 30D.
Yeah, and to add to that, Ryan, is that you some of you see us, we kind of show you some of the platforms like the TradeStation, the the Thinkorswim, all of them. A lot of them you can't filter that stuff out. And even on my platform, it's annoying because it'll show you stocks that would be up on that big percentage gainers, and then all of a sudden you're looking at, well, we only traded 50,000. Doesn't fall within our parameters. The students here at Cyber Trade University, how we talk about the 3 T's: tradable, trend, and trap. The 50% of the failure rate is the first T, and that's the tradable. And if you can't filter that out, it shows you junk that you don't want to see. And what happens, it will eliminate something that does have a very good volume, but we would have probably traded. So that's a feature which I still understand why some brokerage firms don't implement that in, but that's why you want to go. That's why Benzinga has it down.
And I'll leave you with this, Fausto, because what you're saying here is really, really important. One of the things that is different about us is that our entire development roadmap is built off of our clients. We created this software for our clients. So if you start playing around with this, and when I say you, I mean the royal you, anyone here in this presentation, if you start playing around with this and you think, well, gosh, it's got a ton of great stuff, but it just needs this one little thing to help me, absolutely let us know about that. You can submit feedback right from the platform, right with the feedback tool that's built into the menu. You can reach out to our team. We build new things based on what people are asking for. So if we don't have it, don't despair. Let us know. We're happy to try and incorporate it.
Here you go. So with that said, Ryan, James, thank you so much for being in here. We look forward. Hopefully everybody gets a little demo of the platform and then subscribes to it. And then you could use it with your classes. And if you just want to just try it out a little bit, you could do that also. And for me and the staff at Cybertrain University and from Benzinga, guys, thank you so much for being here. We'll send you out the recording for it. Just make sure you register for it. And then, like I said, and we'll teach you a little bit more as we're trading live in the market and trading room. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
for
Have a
having
great
us.
one.
You too.